You're 29 years old. You've been saving for 7 years. Your down payment fund finally hit $52,000. You found a condo, 2 bedrooms, walking distance to work, $380,000. Your mortgage broker keeps texting you, rates are trending up, inventory won't last. If you don't move now, you'll be priced out forever. Your mom sends you Zillow listings every Sunday morning with messages about building equity instead of making your landlord rich. Your coworkers who bought in 2021 casually mention their home values went up $60,000. How they're sitting on all this wealth while you're still renting, and you're there with your $52,000 running the calculator for the 200th time. At 6.8% interest with 20% down, that's $76,000. Your mortgage payment would be $1,982. Add property tax, $4,200 per year, that's $350 per month. Insurance, $165 per month. HOA fees, $280 per month. And maintenance, even though it's a condo, maybe 0.5% of home value, that's $158 per month. You're looking at $2,935 per month before you've bought a single piece of furniture or dealt with one special assessment. You're currently renting a similar place for $1,950 per month. Every logical part of your brain says keep renting, but literally everyone in your life is telling you you're being stupid, that you're throwing money into a black hole, that you'll wake up at 45 with nothing to show for it. So you're asking yourself the question that's been keeping you up at night for 6 months. Which option actually makes financial sense? And here's what nobody will tell you. There's a calculation that answers this question in about 40 seconds. It's called the 7% rule. And once you understand it, you'll stop listening to mortgage brokers, stop listening to your parents, stop listening to everyone who benefits when you sign that purchase agreement, and you'll start making decisions based on actual mathematics instead of guilt and social pressure. My name's Alex, and I've spent an embarrassing amount of time analyzing why people make $250,000 mistakes because a real estate agent told them renting is throwing money away. If you've ever felt pressured to buy a house you're not sure about, or if you're wondering whether you should keep renting or finally buy, stay with me because today we're breaking down the rent versus buy decision using real 2026 numbers. And I'm warning you right now, the answer is probably not what you want to hear. Let's get straight to the point. Here's the lie. When you rent, you're throwing money away. When you buy, you're building equity. Sounds logical, right? Cute thought, but completely wrong. Because here's what they don't tell you. When you own a home, you're also throwing money away every single month. You're just throwing it in different directions. According to multiple 2026 housing analyses, renting is increasingly looking like a legitimate wealth-building strategy rather than a temporary setback. And there's actual math to prove it. But let me show you what you're actually paying for when you think you're building equity. When you own a home, you have 3 major costs that disappear forever, exactly like rent. Nobody talks about this, but these are the real throwing money away costs of ownership. Cost number 1, property taxes. You own the house, but the government still gets a cut every single year. In the United States, the average property tax rate is about 1.11% of your home's value annually. On a $450,000 house, that's $4,995 per year, $416 per month, gone forever. You're not building equity with property taxes. You're paying for schools and roads and services, and if you don't pay, they literally take your house, so you never truly own it. Cost number 2, maintenance. Real estate experts and financial advisors recommend budgeting 1 to 2% of your home's value every single year just for maintenance and repairs. Let's be conservative and use 1%. On a $450,000 home, that's $4,500 per year, $375 per month, for the roof that will eventually need replacing, the HVAC system that will die in the middle of August, the water heater, the appliances, the foundation issues, the plumbing nightmares at 3 a.m. This money disappears into the void. You're not building equity by replacing a broken furnace. You're just preventing your asset from becoming worthless. Cost number 3, and this is the part nobody explains clearly, so pay attention because this is where the 7% rule actually comes from. The cost of capital. Your money has something called opportunity cost. When you put $90,000 into a down payment, you're not investing that $90,000 in the stock market where it could be growing. Historically, the S&P 500 has gained an average of about 10% per year over the past century. Meanwhile, homes traditionally appreciate by about 4 to 5% annually, according to long-term data. The difference, roughly 5%, that's the opportunity cost of your down payment, the returns you're missing out on by locking money into a house instead of investing it in diversified assets. Plus, you're paying mortgage interest on the remaining 80% you financed. At current 2026 rates hovering around 6.5% to 6.8%, that's substantial money going straight to the bank. Let's do the actual math on a $450,000 house. 20% down payment is $90,000. Financed amount is $360,000. Opportunity cost of that down payment at 5% is $4,500 per year. Mortgage interest at 6.8% on $360,000 is approximately $24,480 per year in the first year. Combined, that's $28,980 per year, or $2,415 per month just in interest and opportunity cost. Now let's add it all up. Property taxes at 1.11%, that's roughly $5,000 per year. Maintenance at 1%, another $4,500 per year. Opportunity cost and mortgage interest at effectively 5%, that's about $29,000 per year. Add those together, and you get approximately 7% of the home's value annually in costs that disappear forever. This is the 7% rule. To find out how much homeownership actually costs you per month in money you'll never see again, take the home price, multiply by 7%, divide by 12. So $450,000 times 7% equals $31,500 per year, divided by 12 equals $2,625 per month. That's how much you're throwing away every month as a homeowner, money that vanishes just like rent. So if you can rent a similar house for less than $2,625 per month, renting is financially superior, period. Take the price of a house in your market right now, multiply by 0.07, divide by 12. That's your break-even rent. If you can rent for less than that number, you should rent. Drop your calculation in the comments. I want to see what the numbers look like where you live, because this changes everything about the conventional wisdom we've all been fed. Now, let's talk about what's actually happening in 2026, because the numbers are absolutely brutal. Mortgage rates are averaging 6.3% for the entire year, according to Redfin's forecast. That's down slightly from 2025's average of 6.6%, but nowhere near the 3% pandemic rates that everyone keeps comparing everything to. United States mortgage rates are expected to hover near 6.3% throughout 2026, according to multiple forecasts from major real estate analytics firms. Some optimistic predictions suggest rates might dip into the low 6% range occasionally, but they're not staying there for any meaningful period. We're not getting back to 3% rates anytime soon, possibly not for years. And home prices. Zillow economists expect United States home values to grow 1.2% in 2026. Redfin expects the median United States home sale price to rise about 1% year over year. So homes are getting more expensive, rates are staying elevated, and housing remains deeply unaffordable for huge segments of the population, especially younger people trying to enter the market for the first time. But here's what's interesting about rents. As of September 2025, median rent prices have declined year over year for 26 consecutive months. 26 straight months of rent going down or staying flat. Rental affordability is actually improving while home buying affordability stays terrible. Nationwide, rents are expected to rise only about 2% to 3% year over year by the end of 2026, which is roughly just the pace of inflation. That's totally manageable. Meanwhile, home ownership costs are locked in at whatever insane interest rate you bought at, and you're stuck with it unless you refinance, which costs thousands of dollars. Look, I'm not saying buying is always bad. I'm saying it's bad right now for most people in most markets. Buying makes sense when a few specific conditions are true. You're staying put for 10 years minimum, ideally longer. Transaction costs absolutely eat you alive on short timelines. The 7% rule works in your favor, meaning monthly ownership costs are significantly lower than comparable rent. You have a massive down payment, 30% to 40% or more. This dramatically reduces both your mortgage payment and your opportunity cost. Rates drop to 4% or below. At 3.5% mortgage rates, buying would again become financially superior to renting in many scenarios, or you value intangible benefits enough that you're willing to pay a premium for them. Fixed housing costs, the ability to renovate and customize, emotional stability, roots in a community. These are real benefits, but they cost money. You need to be honest about whether you're willing to pay that premium. But here's the problem that destroys the conventional wisdom. Assuming an 8% average annual investment return, which is conservative for a diversified stock portfolio, renting and investing, the difference actually comes out ahead by about $120,000 over a decade in many current market scenarios. Let me repeat that because it's important. Over 10 years, renters who invest the difference between their rent and what ownership would have cost can end up $120,000 richer than homeowners in equivalent properties. That's not a rounding error. That's life-changing money. That's a down payment on a house when rates are better. That's early retirement money. That's financial independence money. Now, homeowners reading this are getting defensive. But equity, but forced savings, but tax deductions. Let's address these one by one, because these are the objections I hear constantly. But I'm building equity. You're also paying massive interest. In the early years of a 30-year mortgage, most of your payment is pure interest going to the bank. At 6.8% on a $360,000 loan, you're paying roughly $2,040 per month in interest in year one. You're building maybe $350 to $450 per month in equity initially, and that's before you subtract the maintenance costs and property taxes. Meanwhile, the renter investing that difference is building actual liquid wealth they can access without selling their home, without paying a realtor 6%, without closing costs, without any of that friction. But it's forced savings. You know what else is forced savings? Automatic investment contributions. Set up an auto transfer from your checking account to a brokerage account every month. Boom. Forced savings without the illiquidity, without the transaction costs, without the concentration risk, and without the possibility of a housing market crash wiping out your net worth. Buying a house is not the only way to force yourself to save. It's just the most expensive and least flexible way. But tax deductions. The standard deduction in the United States is now $14,600 for individuals, $29,200 for married couples filing jointly, unless you have significantly more than that in mortgage interest and property taxes to deduct. The tax benefit is minimal to non-existent. Most first-time buyers don't even have enough deductions to exceed the standard deduction anymore. And even if you do itemize and get some tax benefit, It doesn't outweigh the opportunity cost and the transaction costs of home ownership. The math just doesn't work in your favor at current rates and prices. But rent keeps going up. So do property taxes, so does insurance, so does maintenance. Your mortgage payment is fixed, sure, but your total housing cost absolutely is not. Property taxes go up when your home value goes up. Insurance has been skyrocketing, especially in states prone to natural disasters. Maintenance costs increase as your house ages. Renters have flexibility. If rent goes up too much, you can move to a cheaper place. Homeowners are stuck. You can't just sell your house because your property taxes went up 20%. You're locked in. Here's where I'll be fair to homeownership because I'm not trying to say it's always wrong. There are real intangible benefits that don't show up in spreadsheets. Predictable housing costs with a fixed rate mortgage. Complete control over your space. You can renovate, paint, get a dog, whatever. You can't be evicted by a landlord who decides to sell. Inflation works in your favor over very long time periods. Your fixed mortgage payment becomes cheaper in real terms as inflation erodes the value of money. And there's long-term emotional stability and roots that come with owning. These are real. But there are also intangible costs nobody talks about. You're locked in geographically. You can't easily move for a better job opportunity in another city without going through the nightmare of selling. You're responsible for every single disaster. Burst pipe at 2 a.m., that's on you. Foundation crack, that's $15,000. Roof needs replacing, that's $20,000. You're illiquid. Your wealth is trapped in walls and can't be accessed without selling or taking out a home equity loan with more interest. And you're concentrated. Having most of your net worth in a single asset in a single geographic location is incredibly risky. If your local economy collapses, your job and your home value both crater simultaneously. 52% of American renters prefer renting to all the expenses and effort of home ownership, according to a 2025 NerdWallet home buyer report, and 36% of renters plan on renting forever. That's not failure. That's not immaturity. That's people doing the actual math and choosing flexibility and liquidity over being house poor. Based on mortgage rates staying in the 6% to 7% range throughout 2026 and current home prices, renting is financially superior in most major United States markets right now. With huge numbers of Americans still locked out of home ownership by high down payment requirements and expensive monthly mortgage payments, rental demand is going to stay elevated, which actually keeps rent prices stable or even declining in many markets. The math is absolutely clear. In 2026, unless you're getting an incredible deal or rates drop dramatically, or you have a massive down payment, renting and investing the difference will leave you wealthier after 10 years than buying. But here's what you need to understand. This isn't permanent. Markets change, rates fluctuate. The 7% rule will give you different answers in different years and different markets. That's why you need to run the numbers for your specific situation in your specific market at the exact time you're making the decision. Not when your parents bought in 1998 at 7% rates when houses cost $150,000. Not when your friends bought in 2020 at 3% rates. Right now, today, with today's numbers and today's rates and today's prices in your city. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Renting is not throwing money away. Buying is not automatically building wealth. Both options involve throwing money away every single month. The only question that matters is which option throws away less money. The 7% rule gives you that answer in about 40 seconds. Home price times 0.07 divided by 12 equals your monthly break-even rent. If you can rent for less than that number, rent. If ownership costs less than rent, then buy. Ignore everything else. Ignore your parents. Ignore your real estate agent. Ignore your friends posting their backyard photos on Instagram. Do the math. If this video just saved you from making a $400,000 mistake because everyone told you to stop throwing money away on rent, share it with someone else who's being pressured to buy right now. Drop a comment with your break-even rent calculation for your market. Let's build a database of real numbers from real cities. And remember, the person telling you renting is throwing money away probably makes money when you buy. Your real estate agent gets a 3% commission. That's $13,500 on a $450,000 house. Your mortgage broker gets a commission. Your parents want bragging rights about their kid being a homeowner. The bank wants 30 years of interest payments from you. Nobody gets paid when you make the smart decision to keep renting and investing. That's why you need to do the math yourself. Now get out of here and run those numbers. Your net worth in 10 years will thank you.